Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Fight for Our Freedom Radio. And I'm your host, Bad Baby. And tonight we have with us GILL BROUSSARD, and we are going to be talking about Planet 7X, how it's affecting our planet, and how it's affecting the people on our planet, and the events that are going on around the world. So welcome to the show, GILL. We're so happy to have you with us.
I'm glad to be here with you. Thank you for calling me.
Well, I apologize for all the complications. I should have double checked back with you to make sure you received my email, but I'll have to get that email address straightened out. And like I said, as far as the complications with earlier with the show, I'll make sure that when I get off the air, we'll edit the recording for you.
Sure.
Okay, so how are you this evening? And tell us what's going on down there in your neck of the woods.
Oh, it looks like winter's definitely on. It's definitely getting cold.
Yeah.
You know, we're waiting for a bad winter. But it'll be a lot of ice for us. What happened?
So GILL, what do you think that we are? Whereabouts do you think we are with the inbound planet? I mean, are we getting close to? Because I guess you didn't get my email, so you didn't get the videos I sent you. But the videos I did send you, I'll resend them to you. What I'm seeing is a lot of flooding around the world, a lot of cracking on our Earth's crust, and just severe weather. So what do you think's going on? Is this going to continue, and is this happening because of what's going on?
Yeah, it's just part of history. Every time this planet comes around, you have severe weather changes as well as surface effects on Earth, like earthquakes, volcanoes, coastal flooding, extreme tornadoes and hurricanes. Even the magnetic north of Earth is moving at over 12 times its normal rate, both the southern and north pole. And this is just part of the cycle of its approach. Remember, when it reaches our edge of our solar system, it takes 16 years to reach the sun. And that's roughly the same time period as where Malachi, Father Malachi had stated. He had stated that, give me a minute here, I have to find my timeline. He stated in 1996, and he said within 5 to 10 years, knowledge of what's going on in space and what is approaching us would be of great importance to us in the next 5 to 10 years. Well, he's an astronomer, okay? And he stayed in it as an astronomer, believe it or not, okay? He was the lead astronomer for the Vatican at that Arizona Observatory, where the Lucifer telescope was that had infrared, which was specifically designed and set up to study the inbound planet. The Vatican went online in 1993. Malachi Martin made a statement in 1996. So if you add 10 years to that, well, that's 2006, roughly. Yes. That puts it at where I'm estimating it to be at the edge of our solar system, around Neptune's orbit. So it's 16 years from that. It roughly puts you at 2021, which is where the second time the moon will be at the foot of Virgo. There was 2 dates that concerned me. 2016, the moon was at the foot of Virgo, and it'll be again in 2021 at the end of March. After that, it'll be 93 years. The moon makes an orbit around Earth every the tilt of the moon. Remember, makes an orbital path around Earth every 18.6 years. That 0.6 years throws it off the following year. Remember, there's like it goes up and it comes down, so there's 2 points. That was 2016, 2021, but roughly 5 years apart. So we're about in the middle of that time period there. And after this next one, it's back around to another 93 years. Well, there's a statement in the Bible that says this generation that saw Israel form, which is basically the Holocaust generation, and age 12 is the age of accountability that's determined in the Bible. So if they were 12 in 1948, when roughly Israel was declared, they're 85 years old in 2021, and then another 3.5 to 4 years for all of it to be finished. So they would be 89 years old. Well, they can't wait another 93 years. So this next date, which happens also to line up with Jacob's trouble, remember, it says in the end days this would be called Jacob's trouble. Well, if you want to know what the timeline for Jacob's trouble, go read the book of Jacob, the story of Jacob. And it follows it. As a world leader in everything, the first year was a Sabbath year. Then it was 7 years before we had a world leader that was chosen right there that we thought would have great hope. The world did. He ended up being he fooled everyone. And the same thing with Jacob's first bride. He was fooled. He didn't know nothing about her. Everything. So he had to work another 7 years for his second bride. And there's in 2016 that was a jubilee. So you added another 7, and then there's a Sabbath year, and followed by a jubilee year after that. Followed by a Sabbath year. And that gives us our second president, second world leader, which is doing exactly what we thought the first one was going to do, was take down the globalist. And now we're in this period where just before Jacob went across the River Jordan, his father-in-law tries to chase him down to bring him back, and because he's leaving with all his wealth and everything. And he turns around to him and says, I worked for you for 20 years. 2021, you had 20 years. That gives you exactly 2021. Again, another biblical lineup, matching also with the year that the moon is at the foot of Virgo. Now, can I state that this is definitely going to be? No, I can't. I can't predict the future. I can only give you estimates. Estimates is the best educated guess that man can give. Okay? But I can point out through astronomy that it's going to be a long time before it's at her foot again, near the month of Passover. So it gives me great concern again on this one. And so if this is true, as far as I can tell it is, and we have an inbound planet, we're going to continue to see food, the scarcity of food rise globally. Last year, we were 7% less globally on food. I have a friend in Australia right now. She sent me, that would just happen this last week. She texted me. She said, lamb, the price of lamb over there at the butcher. In the stores are over $5.30 a pound.
Wow.
That's because of the drought, the severe drought they have over there. You're going to see similar stories throughout the world as this drought either continues. Now, the government will have capabilities of modifying it, but they won't be able to put it all off. We will be affected at certain levels. And,
well, you know, Gil, I'm already seeing the effect on food in our country. I've seen a rise in the price of produce. I've gone into the store a couple times. Well, we don't have that. It didn't come in because we couldn't get it. You know, I was shocked when I was in the store and they couldn't get lettuce. And I said, wow, you couldn't get lettuce? And I said, is that because of the E. coli that's going on? No, that was the romaine lettuce. This is regular head lettuce. And I was thinking, well, a lot of that comes from California. Could that be because of all the fires? You know, but the weather is affecting our country, and we're having a lot of severe storms going on throughout our country. I don't know if you saw on the news that Florida just got hit in the Tampa Bay area with a tornado, and they got, I think they said 5 to 6 inches of rain within a short period of time, which was very odd. It was record breaking. You listen to the Weather Channel, you hear a lot of record breaking weather. What's your take on that?
it's happening around the world. There's record-breaking weather. There's phenomena that they've never occurred. In many different papers, they'll call it a biblical flood. Or, it happened. It had it in the papers in Australia. It happened in the papers in Africa. It happened. You know, there are even places where I can give you one in South Africa. Their water reservoirs are in the same condition, or even worse, actually worse, than California's. They're going through a water crisis, and they're about to run out of water completely. Well, that's going to shut down industry. That's going to shut down agriculture. That's going to shut down not just the crops, you know, for like the irrigation, but also the water for animals. So you have a compound effect between the way they make their livelihood with the jobs, because many of the corporations need water, between the electricity that's produced, which the electrical companies use up about 20% of, depending on the country, even higher, but roughly around 20% of the water is used for making electrical production. So all aspects of life are going to be severely impacted. And probably South Africa is going to be the first. Their capital city is probably going to be the first major city to run out of water completely. And what's interesting about it, they're in the middle of a drought, and then they get hit by a flood. It was about a 2-day rain, I believe there was, and they had at least a foot of water in the roads or more. And then it went back to the drought scenario. And it wasn't enough of water to fill up the reservoir. It helped out, but it wasn't, because the ground absorbed it, a lot of it. But it wasn't enough to make a severe impact on the reservoirs. So remember, this overthrow of Egypt, that first one, okay, happened because food prices went up. Government couldn't raise their subsidies quick enough. You know, they were putting it off, and that caused the people to go to the streets and riot. That'll happen in other places, because many countries subsidize certain grains for their people, so they keep the people calm, or they won't be able to afford it, or they won't be able to get it even. which would cause prices to go up. America is a pretty large food producer, and we're lucky for that, but parts of our country is going to get hit. The western part of our country, maybe all the way up to the Midwest, is going to get hit hard. And that's going to impact any nations that buy grain from us or buy seed from us.
So we don't have a very...
That's how we're going to tell.
Go ahead, Gil.
We have to see a drought 3.5 years before this planet arrives. That tells us that the time frame that we're looking at is correct. We have a pretty good beginning this last year, which was 7% less food was produced, drought in many areas globally. Will this continue? Will it escalate? Will it be 14 to 21% this following year? Only time will tell. And you won't know that you're in the middle of a severe drought until you're in it. You can't predict these things well. So that's the problem. You can't hardly prepare for a major drought. The only way that I can see this is through history. This has been repeated multiple times of the 7-year drought scenario. And it's every time this planet comes around, it affects our sun. And that affects all of our planets. All of our planets are warming up, not just Earth, severely. And,
So Gil, do you think that this is our 7-year tribulation that we're going through?
Actually, yeah, no. Remember my study took me into Hebrew and looking up the old texts and everything from the oldest Bibles that I could. Matter of fact, the oldest Tanakh, the oldest Hebrew scriptures, which is I often went to the Leningrad Tanakh, which is what they used to piece together the Dead Sea Scrolls. So the tribulation is not actually 7 years. It's 3.5. They assume that we'll have 3.5 years before that. It's true, we will. But it's not associated with the tribulation. You know, matter of fact, you have Jacob's trouble, which is actually 20 years. There's 2 sets of 7 within that, starting from 2001. Then that would be then followed by 6 years. Then the 3.5 years of the Great Tribulation, and it will start. The Great Tribulation. This planet is what starts it. The meteor shower is Seal 6, first meteor shower. The second meteor shower, which is 150 to 152 days later, where it says 5 months in the book of Revelation, is the second meteor shower. We're crossing the path that it came in on, the entry. It entered there, you know, and then it went around the sun, then it came back out. So the March scenario is where it's going back out, and that's our first meteor shower. And the second meteor shower is somewhere around the end of August, beginning of September. And half of the Earth is going to be severely impacted. Matter of fact, life after the second event on that half of the Earth will be almost non-existent on that half, because all the grass and trees are burned.
Wow.
Water wells, your water wells are sheared because of the continent, the crust moving. Surface water is contaminated. drinkable, but you suffer greatly by drinking it.
So
Very
do
severe.
you don't think we'll be able to boil the water or try to purify it on our own?
There's nothing to boil it with. All the grass and trees are burnt. You don't have any electricity. You don't have any oil and gas that's working. The pipelines are ruptured. Hollywood has never made a movie to this severity on what we're looking at on this type of event. Hollywood hasn't even come close to this. Okay? You need to follow the instructions in the Bible on where to be, and the place, time, and everything. It says you need to be there 6 months before it arrives, which would be Sukkot, because 6 months prior to Passover is Sukkot. You will see it 3 to 4 months before that. Remember, naked eye observation is 13 months before, and it'll look like a comet near Sagittarius, around probably start off between Capricorn and Sagittarius, and it'll be on the ecliptic, and it'll do retrograde motion. It'll go into majority of Sagittarius, and then it'll reverse back again. And when you see that comet, you see it 3 to 4 months before Sukkot comes around. And that tells you need to follow his instructions. He says to practice Sukkot in Jerusalem. That's where you got to be. And what Sukkot does, it teaches you how to live out of a tent. Sleeping bag, cot, utensils to cooking, everything. You live out of tent. Remember when they had that large forest fire, the last one they had in California?
Yeah, Paradise.
Where, a lot of people had to go to Walmart, buy tents and sleeping bags, and Walmart allowed them to set up their tents in their parking lot. Because the government couldn't help them quick enough. They didn't have, okay? You can't rely on the government. You have to be self-sufficient as best as you can. And that's what Sukkot teaches you. You camp out every year for a week, make sure you have everything you need. Therefore, you went through the process. You know how it is. It's nothing new to you. This time, this camping, instead of it being a practice, is going to be a real one of the real events, and you need to be in Jerusalem for that one. Because you don't make the trip in the winter, it says. Many people will try, and only a few will be allowed in. Because you have to have a track record according to Israel. Israel is going to use some sort of a filtering mechanism to see who's allowed and who isn't, because there's going to be a global panic to a certain extent. And then one of the ways they're going to do it is they're going to use what the Bible says. They'll ask, have you ever practiced in other words, you're coming here for the feast of Passover. What history can you show me that you have come here before? And if it's not documented in immigration that you went through their process, then you don't have a track record, which the Bible says that's one of the things you establish. Basically, he's telling you. So that's why you're there for Sukkot 6 months ahead of time. So when you're asked to stay there for Passover, you have established a track record. So his instructions are very detailed. And there's no way that ancient man could have guessed the scenario, the right sequence of events that follows an exact model, bound comet-like planet, which we've never seen one before. Okay, we never seen a hybrid that is a comet as large as a planet. This is what's described throughout history. The fiery dragon of old, ancient Asia, which remember, Israel is in Asia, connected to the continent of Asia. Their terminology for a comet is fiery dragon of old. Always has been. It still is today. If you go look at their paintings and drawings, you can see it. You see it with dragons. You even see a planet, and on most of the dragons, you see a planet in the center of the painting. Looks like lightning coming off of it. And the dragon, and the serpent dragon, is around it. Sometimes it even shows 7 orbitals, 6 to 7 orbital things, which I can't say it's moons. It's not a solar system. No such thing. That's BS, I call that. There's no data to back up such a claim. This object may have moons. It may have large asteroids. Don't know. But many other things show symbolism. Now, how do I know it's not a mini solar system? Because it have a totally different orbit. It would not have an elliptical orbit. It would have a very wobbly thing because it has to go around its host star, okay? This doesn't have that. We have the track record of the Asian that it has a clear elliptical orbit. And repeated multiple times. We have 14 events in the biblical records. And it's the same model, and it proves out. Each story gives us clear evidence. It tells us, actually, which side of the earth it passed on even at certain times because of the way they're telling the story, because of the sequence of events. Either passed to the right of us or to the left of us. The Bible says this next time that it passes is the worst event in all of Earth's history. Noah's flood is not the worst, and I can also show you that Noah's flood is real, that it actually happened. There's enough evidence for that. And that's not the worst. Noah's flood is not the worst. This next event is. Hollywood hasn't come close to representing this. So, just like the Bible says, if you go on the ground, that's their tomb. That's a fact. Crust will shift. The mechanisms that operate doors will jam. Ventilations will get sheared off, by, you name it. They say debris flying around, anything. That's a nice, beautiful grave, they're paying for. Way to deal with this is above ground and to be at the pivot point of the tilt. And the Bible clearly tells us be at Jerusalem. And it makes the most sense. Above ground.
Well, Gil, what I'm seeing with the videos, and I'll try to get those back out to you again, is I'm seeing a lot of electrical storms that they're actually, I must have seen 4 or 5 videos in the last month where hundreds of cows are being hit by lightning and just laying there dead. This again is another way to affect our food chain. And also I'm seeing people be affected mentally, like they have no regards for human life. What do you think about all that?
There was one particular incident in, I think it was Kazakhstan. I can't quite remember the animal. It's like a deer. It's I call it a deer. It's something else. Maybe antelope or something like that. In one night, about a third, 30 to 40% of that particular animal was wiped out. And if it's lightning, you should have someplace showing a mark where lightning has gone in and come out, like a foot would be, the heel would be blown up, where the lightning is coming out, or something like that. And most of the pictures that I've seen doesn't show that. It doesn't show that it's hit by lightning. I think they're either, I think it's methane that's released in the area or something like that, a cloud of methane that went into a valley. And animals are much more sensitive to methane than humans are. Fish, birds, and certain mammals, not all mammals. It just takes parts per million to kill them. Like the canary in a coal mine, when miners would hit a methane pocket, because methane is odorless. Natural gas is actually methane, but we put a substance, another gas, in that to give it a rotten egg smell. That's the only reason why you can smell natural gas, but it's methane. But natural methane coming out of it doesn't. It's odorless. You can't smell it. So that's why you see birds when they fly through a cloud of methane, they fall dead. In the middle of town, on the highways, anywhere. And most of that's coming from faults. Wherever the faults are shifting and moving, they'll open up veins of methane until it releases it all. Or pockets. Actually, the best thing is the pockets of methane.
So do you think that, I mean, I remember when the birds first started falling and they were coming up with the fireworks theory, and, it scared them. And, do you think that the elite are aware of the methane, and that this is why the animals are dying, and they're just using these cover stories? Because, a lot of people say, why won't they tell us? If they know, why won't they tell us?
Because it would be, the situation would be 1,000 times worse for you if they would tell. Because immediately the markets would collapse. The banks would have a run. Food production would come to a stop. So they cannot tell the public. Cannot tell the public. And the public would believe it. Probably, a lie is easier. The bigger the lie, as certain people have found out in the past, that the bigger the lie, the more easy it is for the people to believe. So, if they want to feed the clouds for rain, they'll spread certain things that they're I don't know what you call it, that they're putting chemicals on us and everything for our detriment. They're not putting chemicals. They're putting particles. You need particles for moisture to collect around to cause it to rain. And they're trying to keep the crops growing. Now, if every nation was trying to seed the clouds to make, wouldn't that stir up the news? Where the people, if every nation admitted, oh, we're seeding the clouds. What's the next question from? Why would be the next question. Why are you having to cause it rain? They don't want that next question to be asked. So how do you stop that from being? You have a cover story. You're going to see many cover stories, but believe your eyes on what you're seeing, on what's physically happening. You see, like these animals they claim that are hit by lightning. Show me an animal where its foot is blown off by lightning hitting, passing through its body. You don't see that. Just like the fireworks are killing the birds out of or something else. There's no facts to back that up. What kills animals in the mass like that? That's deadly. Methane is. That's one of the most common things. And what would cause methane to be released? Earth fracturing. So the next question, they don't want you to to be asking. Why is Earth fracturing all over the place, all over the globe? What's causing the whole globe to be fracturing, to be releasing methane in the oceans, on the land? What's affecting the entire Earth? It's not because we're driving cars. There's only one object that I can point to that has all of these parameters that Earth is affected by: the magnetic field, the volcanoes, the weather patterns, the earthquakes, the animal life being killed, the drought, on and on and on. That is an inbound planet. Would cause all this. And keep in mind, this might sound scary to some people, okay? Read your Bible. Because when you're with him and you believe in him, like Joshua. Remember Joshua's long day? That literally happened.
Yeah.
Earth slowed down by 12 hours, came to a complete stop after that. And the meteor shower, which remember the terminology of back there, they call it fiery hail. That not a single one of his people got hit by one of the meteors. Only the enemy got hit and killed more of them by fiery hail than he did with a sword. And he was told this before they even went to battle. Now, you got to understand that for that to happen and for information to be fed to him, that a rock was placed in space a couple of thousand years earlier with the name of that soldier on it that came and delivered it on that day at that minute and second. There's no such word in the Bible as accident. The Almighty controls every atom on earth. He made this dimension for Yeshua and his descendants. Okay? And if he has to shock you into reality that he's real, he's going to do it. But you're better off believing that he's real before. Otherwise, you have no comfort on what you're fixing to go through here. Follow his words exact. You be where he says. You do his time, place, and his instructions as he said. And it already tells me that only a remnant, only a small group is going to do this. That's the scariest word in the Bible, I'll call that. Word remnant. That takes his word strong enough to follow it. Because keep in mind that the astronomers and the scientists, if you jump on a plane and you're going to Israel at this time, they're saying you're going on the wrong half of the earth. You're going to have to believe what the Bible tells you way before and during this event. That they're going to get it wrong because they don't think there's a mechanism that slows Earth down. Oh, yes, there is. The tail of a comet is plasma, not ice particles. Earth starts to go through the tail. The tail points opposite of the sun. So we'll enter the tail before we ever reach the path, 3 days before we reach the path of the debris. And that is going to start the process of us slowing down. Just like a dimmer switch, it starts the process of us slowing down slowly. By 3 days later, we come to a complete stop. Now the target zone is exactly 12 hours off. Well, there's only 24 hours in the whole rotation of Earth. So that means the side that would have been hit, it now becomes the safe side to be on. And this is only going to be for the people that believe the Bible's real. And their stories are real. They're not stories. They're eyewitness accounts. Because what is science? You can take observed phenomenon, bring it into the laboratory, which is basically software, and reproduce it and show that it's repeatable 14 times in the Bible, repeatable, and have scientific white paper reports that also show that it's the exact same model, that is called science. Sorry to the atheists out there that think that there's no science in the Bible. You better wake up. There's plenty of science if you know astronomy and physics. It's in there. They had it before we ever declared that the universe is electromagnetic in nature, not gravity rule. This is only a new acceptance of some of the scientists today. The Bible already had it correct over 2,000 years ago. Well, more than that, about 4,000 years ago. And we're just waking up to that right now. Now these models declare the stories of being actual events. Because now it works. Exactly these stories, we call it stories, are actually eyewitness accounts. Real events. And very few people are recognizing this. So pay close attention to what's happening with the weather, the food, as it escalates. That tells you it's more likely it will be here. And I don't see any other dates at the moment. Very concerned about the end of March of 2021. And if that's true, then about a year and a half before that, the internet down. Will not allow amateur astronomers to take pictures and post them. When you see the internet going down, start looking up. Look towards Sagittarius. No other place but Sagittarius. And it'll look like a comet, and it won't look threatening. Only the last week and a half of its approach will it really look scary. Before that, it will look harmless. It looks like a comet. Great little light show here. But as a comet, it will be seen 13 months before and 13 months after. The Asian astronomers saw it for 26 months. Naked eye observation. Normal comet is only seen for maybe a couple weeks, maybe a couple months at the most, but not 26 months. That takes a very large object to reflect light that distance away.
So, Gil, the Bible tells us in the last days how people are going to have, a lot of disregard for, each other, mass hysteria, and we're seeing a lot of this happen right now. Do you feel that this is going to escalate?
Yes, it will. I've noticed the temperament of people. If you ever had a doctor or nurse, anybody in the medical field that worked in the emergency room, or a police officer, they'll tell you. Get very much more violent, much more upset easily on a full moon. And it has a lot to do with the gravity fields, okay, or the magnetic fields, whichever way you want to put it. As this planet gets closer, and it appears it has a very strong magnetic field because it's probably heavy in iron. I wouldn't say it's all iron or all metallic, but it's definitely heavy in it. Therefore, the heavier it is, the smaller it's going to be from my estimated size. Remember I said it, between 4 to 7 times the diameter. Unless this thing is a solid iron piece, it may even be smaller than 4. But because it plowed through a planet called Ceres that was in between Mars and Jupiter, that's called the asteroid belt now, and it totally destroyed that planet. but it kept going just at a slower speed until it picked up, 4 more orbits before it gained its speed again. So it has to be extremely dense. And with the magnetic field of Earth being altered, when it's only like it's by Jupiter roughly at the moment, or Saturn, I'm gonna say, it just crossed Saturn's orbit for the time for a timetable to be correct. It has to have a strong magnetic field, and I would definitely point to it having a high iron content because of that, and that's going to affect our emotions. The magnetic fields will affect us. They'll affect animals as well. This is the word loony came from that that people are more loonier in a full moon time period. And you can watch this. I mean, just watch a calendar and look about a day before and the day on a full moon, and watch how much violence and people's attitudes, the way they're peaking out. So that's one of the reasons why you're seeing a lot more violence, war, stirring up, attitudes between politicians, between each other, between countries. It's going to get more agitated, if you wish to call it that, more extreme.
Well, I had Al Cuppet on a week ago, and he's retired Joint Chief of Staff of the Pentagon, and he says that we're about to go into civil war in this country, and it has to do with the immigrants that are trying to get in, and that, also he talks about the grid going down. So, I hear that Homeland Security has been running tests for the grid going down. There's been a lot of talk about the grid going down. I had Dr. Richard Allen Miller on. He said he saw a naval document dating around this time. There is going to be a grid power down. What do you think about that? Is that grid going down because of what's coming in, or are they the ones that are going to put it down to cause the banks to collapse or chaos? What's your take on that?
Well, as far as the planet will probably cause the sun to spike at a couple of times, and you'll have these large magnetic storms that may hit Earth here. And that could have an impact on shutting down the grid. Now, can you really come out and say that again without causing major panic on the stock market? Only to a certain level. You can only mention it, but not the way to where it wakes up the public. So they may have a couple of short brownouts, try to wake up the public that a grid down scenario could happen. So you could go and get food and a little bit of gas or generator or whatever, or dry goods. Treat it like a bad storm where the power is going to be out for a couple of weeks or even a month. Be prepared. The government cannot handle a whole country in a bad scenario. The government can't do that. They don't have the resources. They don't have the manpower. They can't. You have to be able to do it. You have to be self-sufficient to a certain level. And that's one of the things the Bible does kind of teach you, if you understand what he's telling you about. These are not vain religious acts that he thinks. He's actually giving you something to practice or real event in the future. It says at one point, after the second meteor shower, Earth is hit so hard by that fiery mountain, Wormwood, which is a large meteor the size of a mountain, hit Earth. That's the second event. That's 5 months later. Earth is hit so hard that it wobbles like a drunkard. And there's another text that says every wall on Earth is either cracked or crumbled. Now, keep in mind, even 6 months before this first event, well, maybe, let me take that back. Maybe the last month and a half or so, it won't even be safe to be in a building in Jerusalem, because Jerusalem buildings are made with stone blocks. They're not made with reinforced concrete walls. Okay, because they're not in an earthquake zone per se. You know, they never had any big ones there. They had in the past, but not in any recent history. So, won't be safe in buildings. That's why he tells you to practice to build temporary shelters, how to build them and how to live in them for a short period of time, because it's going to be a reality. And so.
Well, don't you think that some people, they're just financially no way they're going to be able to make this trip. So I feel that, that maybe some of us might survive over here if we're in the right place at the right time and we have the right resources that we prepare for. A lot of people say, well, I can't afford to buy the freeze-dried food, which is expensive, correct. But, I mean, wouldn't you say go out and buy like dried beans, dried peas, rice, stuff like that? It's cheap and it keeps. What do you think about that, Gil?
Anything that keeps is a good thing to have, okay? Now, let me give you an example. What's the person with the least amount of income and assets? Isn't that a slave? Slave, even though we don't have them today, at least not in our area here, but there might be slaves in certain places of the globe still today. But they have no claim to assets. They have no money ahead of them. Okay? Remember when the Israelites were in Egypt, they had no assets. They leave there, and they were able to leave Egypt with the elderly, with the cripple, with the, whoever. Not a single person is complaining. And they walked out of there for 3 days and 3 nights. Not even the animals, rested. The human, that in itself was a miracle. Because whoever had an ailment was fixed. They were cured. They didn't have to stop for food, or they had all the energy that they need. They had all the money that they need. It's called a miracle. Okay? If you don't believe in miracles, then you won't see one when it happens, maybe. But I believe biblically what it says. Because everything else I found was real. I would believe that miracles are real too. Will we see a miracle? Some of us definitely will be seeing one coming up here. Okay, will it be for everybody? I have no idea. I know the Egyptians weren't blessed from the miracle because they were the oppressors. Okay, so certain people won't be blessed. But it also tells you that not all those Israelites made it to the promised land neither. So there will be a blessing. And There will be people helping other people that will be needing help. Their neighbor, whatever, because the internet won't be up probably, and it's the scariest word. Remember again, only a remnant will recognize what to look for. Be ready to go to Israel for that Sukkot and stay there for the next 6 months when everybody else is panicking.
Well,
This will be fulfilled. His words in the Bible are going to be fulfilled, whether you're ready or not.
exactly. Now you talk about March of 2001 or 2021 as the moon being at her feet, and the next time that you feel the planet will be passing. Before this date comes about, are we going to see more cracking in the earth and the weather get more and more severe? Are these God's warning signs to us, Gil?
Yes. Remember what he sold to the Pharisees. He says, you know how to tell the weather by looking at the. I'm kind of paraphrasing. That you're able to see the signs in the sky and know the weather, but you don't look around you and you can't see the signs of the coming of the Messiah. They're not looking for the right signs. So yes, you will see these things escalate, and you have to. Only the ones whose eyes are open will connect this with biblical prophecy. This is throughout the story. 14 times about the droughts, the severe weather, the earth shaking. It's in the Bible. Just read it. These are events when it passed.
Well, we need to wake up, don't we, Gil?
Trying, but not too many people are listening. I even give them very hard evidence. I give them artifacts. I give them the math. I give them the graphics. I point to where it is in the Bible. Up, I say, and prepare as best as you can. There will be a blessing coming up. Personally, I can't hardly prepare for it because I'm not that financially set up. But I am expecting a blessing to happen. Might be nearer than we think at the moment. I think this is going to be a very interesting beginning of the year, and maybe the end of the year we might see something around that time. Got to be patient because it's going to be delivered at His timing, not our own timing. When we want it, it's going to be when He wants it delivered. You just got to know what to do with it.
Well, the message that I've been trying to get out my last few shows is that this event is true. This event is going to happen, and we need to get our spiritual house in order. I mean, that's the foremost and first thing we need to do is get our spiritual house in order, and then not fear, but prepare. Because and also I feel ask God to guide you through this and what you are supposed to do. I mean, we can't get answers if we don't ask.
Right, but very few people ask. Remember, He says, my people die from lack of knowledge. He didn't say lack of religion. He tells you to come out of her. The her He's talking about is the religious institution. They're not teaching you any of this. You better stick your nose in the Bible and read it. And let the Holy Spirit open your eyes. because that's what it says in the Bible. Let the Holy Spirit teach you. And the only way that that's going to happen is if you put effort into it.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question to you. Was the churches aren't even awake and letting people know that they need what they need to prepare for. Even the church is asleep on this. Am I correct?
Yes, because they've seen it in the past. Time they're talking about time or date, because there's two sayings in the Bible. There's a lot of people don't realize that there's two taking aways. Only one of those taking aways is to heaven. The first taking away is to the wilderness. The second one is taking away to heaven. And qualifier also for one of those. One of those, it says you will not know the day or the hour. The other one, it says you will know the day or the hour. My people, he says, my people, the ones whose eyes are open, will know. So that's the first taking away. Second taking away, we won't know. Qualifiers are completely different. The first taking away is only a remnant. Second taking away, it's all believers. First taking away, you got to be in Jerusalem. The second taking away, it says you can be anywhere on earth when it happens. First taking away, you brought to the wilderness. The second taking away, you brought to heaven. It goes on and on and on. The qualifiers are completely different. You're looking at two different taking aways. One is at the beginning of the 3.5 years of the Great Tribulation, and one is at the end of it. And they're 6 months apart, basically, on a calendar. Remember, 3.5. The first one is in Passover. The last one is on the last trump. Last event.
Now, I have a guest here that had made it. I have a guest here that made an interesting comment. I want to get your take on this. The churches today are nothing more than governmental agencies created, ruled, and controlled and ran by the government.
In an indirect way, maybe so. With certain ones, yes. I would. The word there, you just can't use the word all. All is exclusive, and this is, I kind of stay away from that word. But in general, I would say probably yes. In an indirect way, because if they were to tell the people stock up food and and get your tent and get your house in order and get your debt. I only heard of one church that helped pay the people in the congregation their debts off. The church is out of debt, and the people within the church is out of debt. That's pretty well close to the following the word. Okay, that's one way of doing it. Now, he doesn't mind telling his people to prepare because it doesn't impact their bottom line, their financial budget. It doesn't affect them. But most of these churches that are in debt and the people in debt, if they had to change a dollar to save up for this, guess what they're going to cut out? They're going to cut out the contributions to the church and prepare. That's why they've learned. That's why the churches will not warn the people. That's why he says, come out of her, my people. The Bible is not teaching you a religion per se. It's teaching you a way of life, how to get your character in order. It's about religion at any given time. This was about building your proper character.
Well, Gil, for those that go to church, I mean, I've talked to a lot of people that do go to church, and they're I don't know. It seems to me like it's a form of mind control. And the other thing is, I know that a lot of the pastors have gone to FEMA, what do you call it, programming, training, or something like that through Homeland Security, and that they're going to participate in the takeover uh, when they try to gather people up and take them to the camps. They're basically going to tell people, do what you're told, get on the bus. You know, do you think that this scenario will possibly happen before the event, or what's your take on that?
I think we have a president that's changing the global structure and the plan that the globalists used to have about what they were going to use these FEMA camps for. I think it's changed because he has no plans on using it for that. He might put them in it instead, but he's not going to be putting us in it. It looks like we have a president that's actually for the people now.
Yes.
I know there's some people that don't like him. Well, too bad. You're either for him or you for the crooks and the pedophilia and the lawbreakers and the ones that were planning to eliminate America as we know it. And so if you're on that other side, good luck to you. You really don't deserve love, but I hope he succeeds. I never thought I would see a man take on such a large task. It looks like many other nations are joining in to clean out their own governments of the globalists. Looks like it's a pretty good movement. And the globalists, some of them are running scared for sure. And there's 60, last count, I think 65 or 66,000 sealed indictments. And Trump has changed over 80-something judges, federal judges around the states. And he still has like 30 or 40 more to change. He's cleaning out the judges, the problems in the judicial. He's not going to open those indictments until he has the proper judges to judge correctly. And I know some of those are going to be military courts. Some of those people did treasonous acts. And you probably see some of them hanged because I know certain people were killed because of their actions. That's a death sentence, usually.
And that's exactly why they're fighting Trump so hard when when he's trying to get these judges on the Supreme Court. They're dragging him through the mud because they want us to prevent this from happening because they know that they're the ones that are going to be on the line next.
They drug his generals through the mud. They drug his judges that he's trying to appoint. They're trying to smear anybody that he brings that's going to do right, that's going to be the correct prosecute, that can't be bought off or threatened. And they're going to do whatever they can to smear him. And we have to support people that there's no evidence to back up these claims, that doesn't come up with anything. And they're just trying to, mainly they're trying to buy themselves more time where they hope that they can succeed by taking him out of the office as president. But they're going to fail. I think this is, God put the right man for the right job at the right time to buy us time for us to make the appointed time to Jerusalem. If this wouldn't happen, we wouldn't be making it. America would already be taken down, and many other countries would fall. And I think he's going to turn this global collapse. It'll take him a little while, but he's going to turn this global collapse into a global success for the people. Maybe for sure for America and many other countries that want to get away from the globalists. There'll be certain countries that some of their politicians are still for the globalists, and they'll cause a lot of pain on their own people. But we'll see how many are left after this. But,
that's why it's so important that we pray for our president and for his protection, and you know, that he has the angels sent to him to help him through these trying times. And the more people that pray for him, the more guidance and help he'll get. So, you know, we gotta get off of the hate thing. You know, I hate it, hate this and hate that, and I hate, you know, he did this in the past or whatever. You know, if we want to survive or have any guidance through this, we have to wake up.
that's right. But remember, only the Father in heaven is able to open eyes and ears for them to hear, for people to hear the word and see what's coming. I could talk to I'm blue in the face, and I'm not going to help many of the people that I talk to. But if he opens their eyes and ears, they're able to hear this, and they can tell that it's factual and that it's in there and that there's evidence. Especially if they turn to some of my past videos where I actually show the slides and the evidence, and I explain each story how it represents itself in the same model as what the Asian astronomers saw, and plus the artifacts that prove out the date. No, I mean, you know, we're living in incredible times, and our future is going to be even a lot more incredible. Whether or not you're ready for it or not, you'll need to be. And not just prayer, but educate yourself. This topic, don't walk away from it. That's not going to help you. Educate yourself, and then be prepared and know where to go at the right time.
Yeah. Well, Gil, we're coming up on the last few minutes of the show, and you just touched on a subject that I wanted to get out there about your slides and videos. And there are some people that are in the window tonight that are new to this subject that I have brought in and trying to tell them to, you know, this is what's going on. It's like, wow, I never knew any of this. So for those that aren't familiar with you and don't know about your work, why don't you tell us how you you know, started out with figuring out the slides and the history, and then where they can go to view your videos and look at the graphics that you have. And I, you know, I've seen it all, Gil, and you know what? You don't have to prove anything to me. I can tell you've done your homework. So, you know, no one has to prove to me what's going on. I've done a lot of research on this. I've had a lot of people show a lot of different things. And yeah, this is going to happen. I'm not afraid. Because you know why? Because I trust God. He has my plan. I think that God chose us to be here at this time to guide the people that aren't ready to go through this. And I think you're one of them that was, because you didn't just decide to start doing this. Am I correct, Gil?
I was a hardened skeptic. It took a good 2 years, or out of the 3.5 years of my study, before I no longer had a footing left to be a skeptic. There was too much overwhelming hard evidence in white paper studies, the reconstruction of the models, the artifacts. It's nothing what many of these people talk about remember, the stuff that most people talk about, this Nibiru and all this, that's BS because it violates orbital mechanics. They don't have any hard evidence of a sighting anywhere. They can't plot an orbit that's proper, that actually works. There's no evidence to back up any of this. Matter of fact, there's flaws in their theory and their comments. Showing you the actual hard evidence on white paper reports, peer-reviewed papers. I show you where NASA probes went. It happens to match the exact model of the Asian astronomers. And that was after the fact that this was proven, after the Asian astronomers' orbits were already established. And when I turned on the Pioneer and Voyager probes, bingo, they were being sent for this object. When you go back to the articles of the papers, when they send them, they actually use the term Planet X. They're looking for it. 1993, December 1992, they went completely silent because when you go to the software, it showed that it made instrument contact. It was within their, if you want to call it radar, whatever you call it, their instruments were able to triangulate the position. That's when it told them it didn't have a circular orbit, it had an elliptical orbit, and that it was coming towards the sun. But that was a possible threat to Earth. They had to go silent. And it's that type of evidence that tells me we are dealing with a real object. Been here multiple times, roughly every 360 years. It's not 3,600. Roughly 360 years. There's 14 times in the Bible. And another 5 secular. I hate to say it, but we have a real problem. And it's showing the effects of it coming in again. These are exactly what we would expect. So if anybody wants the information, all of my charts and what data, the data I can't show, I show you the title of the white paper report. You have to look them up and buy them because they're copyrighted by the people who wrote them. I can't give that out for free. That's not my papers. It's scientific papers. You can buy them and download them. I have all the charts that I lay out. That's free. Anything I make is free out there. Go to planet7x.net, and that'll take you. You go halfway down. There's a Google Drive. You click on that, and that gives you access to all of the data, the charts, the book, everything. That's all free on that Google Drive. Then if you want to see my actual videos, go to my YouTube channel, Planet 7X. You're going to see me standing by my telescope as a logo. Many people copy. I mean, some of them have edited what I've said. Want to hear what I actually said? Go look at the videos that are on my site. You can look at the dates. They've been there since 3 years now, or 4 years. There's some people that take some of my videos, they'll change, and they'll put like it's coming tomorrow. That's not. Don't believe those. Get away from those sites. They're forging it, forging the data and everything. You know what I said? Just go back to my original sites, and you can see what I said. The videos and the radio interviews are long, so just remember what, listen to it at 20 or 30 minutes at a time, and just mark, okay, at what minute you stop, and you can go back to it later. So open the Bible. I give you the sections on the passages where it's at. I give you the ancient terms that they're using: fire or hail. Look for droughts. Anytime you see a double eclipse where it says the sun is black, and the moon is blood red, well, that's a double eclipse. Double eclipse can't happen in the natural. You can only have one at a time. The only time you can have a double eclipse is with a third object. So, remember, like when Yeshua was on the cross, there's 3 hours of darkness. We can give you only 7.3 minutes of darkness. And the moon's on the wrong side of Earth. It's a full moon. It takes a new moon to make a solar eclipse. And we have outside text that tells us that the moon was in the eclipse mode too. It was blood red. So you had a double eclipse during the time of Yeshua's sacrifice. That's one of the passings. There was an earthquake then. And it's going to come again for the Messiah. That's one of the signs. This ushers in also the Antichrist. That's a sign for him, and it also ushers in the true Messiah. But the Messiah only coming to bring the bride and the bridemaid to a place of safety in the wilderness, where she's protected throughout this time of the Great Tribulation. And he does the choosing. Be there. See, you need to follow his appointed times and places. They are not so-called feasts. The Hebrew word means appointed time and place. They are dry rehearsals. Feast can be in a rehearsal, but a rehearsal is not declared a feast. These are dry rehearsals. 3 out of the 7 you are required to be in Jerusalem. Just people practice. Even if you can't go to Jerusalem, but just don't miss that last one. Be there 6 months before. And get a passport ahead of time so you can go to Israel.
And one of our guests said, have oil in your lamps.
Oh, that is true, because when the Earth goes through the plasma tail, electronic devices, like all generators globally, have to be turned off, because the tail of a comet is electrically charged plasma. Therefore, it would burn out every generator if it's on. So all generators globally have to be off. And there's not enough batteries in the world for people to use flashlights. So you got to go back and burn oil lamps. Now, there's a parable pertaining to the bridemaid. They're using olive oil lamps, and you need to measure one out where it holds 12 hours of oil. The wives have 2 portions of oil. The lamp is full and extra. A portion is for 12 hours. That tells you right there that that night is going to be 12 extra hours longer. Remember where it says in the Bible, it says, I will make day into night and night into day. Well, an eclipse only gives you darkness during the daytime. It doesn't give you light at night. That is describing a 12-hour delay in Earth's rotation, as what happened through Joshua's long day. Each part of these stories in the Bible, these 14, part of that data is going to be happening in the last book right here. These are data points. You don't know the old stories well enough on how it was taking place. You won't realize how it's going to occur in the end. So, yes, the oil lamps are very, very important.
Yep. And you know what's interesting is I've been coming across those lamps pretty much for free almost. I mean, I'm finding them in yard sales for $1. I just got one from the free store. The lady was taking it out of the box and said, we'll have to put this somewhere safe so it don't break. I said, put it in a bag for me. I'll take it. So I just got one for free. So I really do believe that God is guiding me through this and helping me get prepared in any way I can. And that's possibly why I'm out here is, I really, really want people to wake up and find out that, material things aren't important right now, are they, Gil? I mean, everybody's like, I got to have the best car. I got to have the best house. I'm going to have a better job than you. I'm better than you in this and that. None of that matters anymore. We need to just wake up and figure out what is important, and that is to help one another, love one another, get our spiritual house in order, and be prepared for this event that's about to come upon us.
Yeah, you need to be looking for the best tent and the best sleeping bags and the best cots, and other things which are part of your things in for Sukkot. That's why if you've been practicing that, you would have gone through a lot of these things and know whether or not they're durable for the next 6-month run or so. But all of this will come out. Whoever follows it will learn.
Oh.
Now, those lamps that you were looking at, they're kerosene lamps. Now, convert a kerosene lamp to an olive oil lamp. Olive oil is thicker. It doesn't rise as high on the wick. So your flame area, you have to cut the neck down. There's a YouTube video that shows you how to do that. And get that burning mechanism much closer to the oil. Because the oil won't travel as far because it's thicker. So, and then you have to use a looser wick that's able to pick up the oil. So you have to try all of these things out. Make sure you have one that uses olive oil that works. And not all, there's a lot of fake olive oil stores. And one of the ways that you can tell that you have true olive oil is when you put it in the fridge. I believe you might check it up. You might check this on the internet, but I believe when you put olive oil in the fridge, it coagulates. It turns whitish. Where like vegetable oil, if you put it in the fridge, it won't. It's going to still stay its normal texture, whatever. But olive oil will get thicker, and it'll turn white. So that's one of the ways that you can tell if you have true olive oil, because there's a whole market of they're making a lot of money adding green color to linseed oil or some other oil that they put in the place of olive oil. So I think Costco is one of the ones. I saw an article that tested a lot of oils from different stores. The Walmart brand, one of those, had it was tested correctly, and Costco had proper virgin olive oil. Many of these other stores, it was fake. Whatever the manufacturer they were buying it from, it was not true olive oil. It was fake. So make sure you're designing your oil lamp with the correct oil.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Gil, for coming out and going over everything with us tonight. I appreciate it. I apologize for the confusion at the beginning of the show. I will make sure I edit this out and start it from our starting point so that we get all that other information off of the recording. And then I'll post it up on YouTube. I'll send you a copy, and then I will delete the copy that I have here on TalkShoe so that information doesn't stay out there.
Okay, I'm going to add some graphics to the video whenever you send it to me, and I'll post it on my site.
Okay. All right. Well, we will.
All right.
We will be in touch, Gil, And God bless you for your works, and you stay safe down there, my friend. And I will keep in touch with you.
You too. May the Almighty bless y'all and your listeners, and may He bless us to have a safe walk to Jerusalem during the time comes. All right. Good night, everybody.
You, Gil. And folks, that was GILL BROUSSARD. We were honored to have him join with us tonight. I hope you enjoyed the show. I want to tell you all to have a safe and a pleasant week. Everybody have a wonderful Merry Christmas. I hope you all have a abundance of blessings come down on you. Please have no fear, have faith, call upon the Lord and ask Him to guide you to what to do, and stay tuned in because I've got some interesting guests coming up, and we're going to go over some tips also, like what Gil gave us out tonight about having oil for our lamps. And he's correct. We need sleeping bags. We need tents. If we have earthquakes and our house crumble, we're going to want to have some kind of shelter. But we are going to go over some of these things. Beginning of the year, I'm probably going to do some survival shows and try to help walk everybody through this. So on that note, I am going to close this show out, and I want you all to remember, Bad Baby loves you.